All right, Project 2025, Chapter 1, the White House. And then I'll upload this later. We'll see how far we can get into this. So I can upload just doing a video. And this is by Rick Dearborn. From popular culture to academia, the American president has long been a prominent fixture of national imagination. Naturally so, since it's the beating heart of our nation's power and prestige. It has played, for instance, a featured role in innumerable movies, television shows, and has been prodded, analyzed, critiqued by countless books, essays, and studies. But like nearly everything else in life, there is no substitute for the first-hand experience which this manual has compiled from the experience of presidential appointed and provides an accessible form of the future use. With respect to the presidency, it's best to begin with our republic's foundational document, the Constitution. Gives the executive power to the president. It designates him as a commander-in-chief and gives him the responsibility to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. It is further prescribes that the president might seek the assistance of the principal officer in each of the executive departments. Beginning with George Washington, every president has been supported by some form of White House office consisting of direct staff officers as well as cabinet comprised of departmental or agency heads. Since the inaugurational administration of the late 18th century, citizens have chosen to devote both their time and their talent to defending and strengthening our nation by serving at the pleasure of the president. Their shared patriotic endeavor has proven to be a noble one, not least because the jobs is what is known as the White House office are amongst the most demanding in all of government. The president must rely on the men and women appointed to the White House office. There simply are not enough hours in the day to manage the affairs of the state single-handedly. That's a fact. Nothing wrong with that. So delegation is not just advisable, it is essential. The decisions that assistants and senior analysts, advisors make will directly impact the administration, its legacy, and most important, the fate of the country. Their agenda must therefore be the president's agenda. Choosing who will carry out that agenda on a daily basis is not only one of the first decisions a president makes in office, but also one of the most critical. The tone and tempo of the administration are often determined on January 20th. Nothing wrong with that. As with most of the positions that will be covered in this first chapter, the chief of staff is also an assistant to the president. However, the chief is truly first among equals. Of all presidential staff members, the chief is the most critical to implementation of the president's visions for the country. The chief also has a dual role as manager or staff of both the White House and executive office of the president. The chief of staff's first managerial task is to establish an organizational chart for the White House office. It should be simple and contain clear lines of authority and responsibility to avoid conflicts. It should also identify specific points of contact of each element of the government outside the White House. These contacts should include the White House liaisons who are selected by the Office of Presidential Personnel. Receiving guidance from the president, the chief endeavors to implement the president's agenda by setting priorities for the White House office. This process begins by taking stock of the president's campaign promises, identifying current and prospective opportunities, and then delegating policy priorities among the departments and agencies of the cabinet and throughout the 3 White House policy councils: the National Economic Council, the Domestic Policy Council, and the National Security Council. The president is briefed on all of his policy priorities by his cabinet and senior staff as directed by the chief. The chief, along with senior White House staff, maps out the issues and themes that will be covered daily and weekly. The chief then works with the policy councils, the cabinet, and the Office of Communications and the Office of Legislative Affairs to sequence and execute the rollout of policies and announcements. White House counsel and senior advisors and senior counselors also are intimately involved. All senior staff report to the chief of staff, either directly or through his 2 or 3 deputies, unless the president determines that a particular assistant to the president reports to him directly. Most chiefs have interacted directly with cabinet officers and a select number of direct reports. In most cases, the direct reports to the chief are his 2 or 3 deputies, the communications director, the PPO director, White House counsel, and senior advisors. Occasionally, the Office of Public Liaison, the cabinet secretary, and intergovernmental affairs agency also report directly to the chief. Usually, however, they report instead to Deputy Chief of Staff. The Chief of Staff's main challenge is time management. His use of his deputies, meetings with senior staff, and direction provided to the White House office must all balance with the daily needs of the president. A successful chief steers the West Wing using his management of and influence with various individuals and entities around him. It goes without saying that selecting the right person to be the chief is vital. Deputy Chief of Staff. In recent years, presidents typically have appointed 2 deputy chiefs of staff. A deputy chief of staff for management and operations and a deputy chief of staff for policy. There also have been other types of deputy chiefs whose roles have been included, for example, overseeing strategy, planning, and implementation. Chiefs of staff have then occasionally appointed a principal deputy chief to be in charge of guiding decision-making, organizational structure, and information flow. Principal deputy chiefs of staff. Now, all chiefs of staff have tapped a principal deputy. A major reason is that doing so adds another layer of command complexity. I was just thinking to myself, too much heavy management, just too top heavy. When principal deputies have been installed, their roles have varied based on the needs of particular chiefs. Most principal deputies have functions as doorkeepers, sorting through action items, taking on those that can handle at their own level, and passing up others that truly require the attention of the chief of staff or the president. Principal deputies have assumed control of scheduling functions, normally under the operations deputy, and have worked directly with policy councils at the direction of the chief of staff. Deputy Chief of Staff for Management and Operations. The Deputy Chief of Staff for Management and Operations oversees the president's schedule and all logistical aspects of his movement within and outside the White House. This deputy also interfaces directly with Secret Service as well as military offices tasked with keeping the president and his family safe. In the past, this deputy also worked with the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State and the intelligence community and on advancing all foreign trips. If their roles are separated from that of the policy deputy, this deputy should have a strong grasp of international affairs and robust foreign policy credentials. This deputy further manages all facets of the working White House: technology, grounds management, support staff, personnel administration, and communications. This individual, therefore, needs to be meticulous and ideally should possess a great deal of command and control experience. Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. In some administrations, the functions of the IGA, OPA, and OPL and other advisors within the White House office has fallen under the Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. Okay, I'm just going to kick some of this. Senior advisors. President has surrounded themselves with senior advisors whose experience and interests are not necessarily neatly defined. In recent administrations, senior advisors have been appointed to offer broad guidance on political matters and communication issues. Others have acted as CSARs for specific projects or policy areas. The most powerful senior advisors frequently have long personal relationship with the president and often have spent a significant amount of time with him within and outside of the White House. They have been asked not only to provide guidance on a variety of policy issues, but also to offer instruction on communicating with the American people and the media. Okay. Office of White House Counsel. The Office of White House Counsel provides legal guidance to the president and elements of the EOP of hosted issues, including presidential powers, privileges, ethics compliance, review of clemency applications, and judicial nominations. The selection of White House counsel is one of the most important decisions an incoming president will make. The office is not designed to create or advance policies on its own initiative, nor should it do so. Rather, it is dedicated to guiding the president and his reports on how to pursue and realize the president's agenda. While the White House counsel does not serve the president's personal attorney in non-official matters, it is almost impossible to delineate between where an issue is strictly personal and no bearing on the president's official function. The White House counsel needs to be deeply committed to both the president's agenda and to affording the president's proactive counsel and zealous reputation. That individual directly advises the president as he performs the duties of office, and this requires a relationship that is built on trust, confidentiality, and candor. Okay, so I'm going to skip some of this. Let me see. The White House counsel office cannot serve as a finishing school to credential the next set of white shoe law office attorneys or federal judges in waiting who cabin their opinions for fear of elite credentials should be tarnished through a policy of disagreement. Rather, it should function more as an activist yet ethical plaintiff's firm that advocates for its client the administrator's agenda within the limits imposed by the Constitution and the duties of legal profession. The White House counsel also serves as a primary gateway for communication between the White House and Department of Justice. Traditionally, both the White House counsel and Attorney General have issued a memo requiring all contact between the two institutions to occur only between the White House counsel and the Attorney General or Deputy Attorney General. The next administration should re-examine this policy and determine whether it might be more efficient or more appropriate for communication to occur through additional channels. The White House counsel also works closely with the DOJ Office of Legal Counsel to seek opinions on, for example, matters of policy, development, and constitutionally of presidential power and privilege, and with the DOJ of legal policy on presidential judicial nominees. When a president takes office, he will need to decide expeditiously how to handle any major ongoing litigation or other pending legal matters that might present a challenge to his agenda. To offer guidance, the White House counsel must get up to speed as quickly as possible on all significant ongoing legal challenges across the executive branch that might affect the new administration's policies agenda, and must be prepared at the outset of the administration to present recommendations to the president, including recommendations for considering or reversing positions of the previous administration in any significant litigation. This review will usually require consulting with new political leadership at the DOJ, including during the transition period. No day is predictable at the White House. Therefore, to handle the pace and the volatility of affairs, the Office of White House Counsel must offer measured legal guidance in a timely manner. Staff Secretary. The Office of Staff is rarely visible to the outside world, but it performs tremendous work. The office is similar to a military commander's adjutant, as it's responsible for fielding and managing a vast amount of information at the top of the organization. This includes information on its way into the Oval Office, as well as information flowing out from the Oval Office. Because of its gatekeeping function, the position of Staff Secretary is one of extreme trust, and the individual who possesses it should be vetted to work as an honest broker in the president's service. One of the staff secretary's critical functions is managing and overseeing the clearance process of the presidential's daily, nightly briefing book. This book is filled with all reading material and leading documentation the president needs in the morning and the evening to help him make decisions. The staff secretary also oversees the use of the president's signature, whether by hand or by auto pen, and manages the Office of Executive Clerk, Office of Records Management, and the Office of Presidential Correspondence. Office of Communications operates under Director of Communications, conveys the president's agenda to the public through various media, including speeches, remarks, press briefings, off-the-record discussions with reporters, and social media. Depending on how a president chooses to structure his White House, the Office of Communications may include the Office of Press Secretary, but no matter how it is structured, the office must work closely with the press office as well as the presidential speech writers and digital strategists. Operational functions include scheduling and running press briefings, interviews, meetings, media appearances, speeches, and a range of other events. The Office of Communications must maintain robust relationships with the White House Press Corps, the White House Correspondents Association, regional stakeholders, and key interest groups. No legal entitlement exists for the provision of permanent space for media on the White House campus, and the next administration should re-examine the balance between media demands and space constraints on the White House premises. The speech writing team is a critical component of the communications team. Speech writing is a unique talent. The writer selected must understand policy, should have a firm grasp of history and other liberal arts disciplines, and should be able to learn and adopt the president's style of rhetoric and mode of delivery. Hey, I'm learning a lot. The press secretary is the president's spokesperson, communicating to the American people through the media. Like Jen Corinne, she does an awful job. I'm sorry, Corinne, you do an awful job. You do. The press secretary engages with White House press corps formally through press briefings and informally through impromptu gaggles and meetings. Individuals who serve in this role must be quick on their feet, which means when appropriate, refuting and rebutting correspondence, questions, and comments. She do a terrible job on that. Yes, she does. Okay, I'm going to stop right there. I got to get ready to get out of here. I will post this later. Like, share, and subscribe. We're going to finish up. I learned a lot just in that 20 minutes. All right, have a good day. Like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment.